Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Maloney's Digest. I don't need any introduction because it's my channel, but these fine gentlemen here, who I'm thrilled to have on with me. So we have Jose Vega and Kynan Thistlethwaite. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. How's it going?
Great, good to be here.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
you guys are in New York City at the moment.
Yep.
New York City. I lived there once. Bay Ridge. On the
Oh,
Upper
yeah?
West Side. Where are you based?
He's Queens. I'm the Bronx.
We're both in the
Oh.
Bronx right now, though, as of the moment.
Yeah.
Boroughs boys.
Yes.
I can imagine it's very expensive to try and get a place in Manhattan lately.
Oh, hell yeah. Forget about it.
Yeah. How about that gentrification going on over there?
I mean, you want an actual answer?
Yeah, how's it go? I mean, like, it seemed because I've lived in New York twice. First time was 2000. I was only briefly, like, for a few months. First time I lived in Bay Ridge in 2006. Second time I lived on the Upper West Side for a month. But things seem to have gone a bit downhill in recent years. Would this be true? Is this, or is it just kind of like
I think that's an understatement. If things have gone way down. Things are bad here in New York. The median average price for rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan just crossed $3,000 a month. A month. Yeah.
It's happening here in Stockholm. It's happening in Dublin. It's happening in London. I mean, at least New York has that kind of greatest city in the world. So there's a lot of people who, I think New York seems to be kind of going back to where it was in the late 70s, early 80s, and I think globally we're looking at some sort of weird 1980s dystopian vision of what these times would be like.
Yeah, I think so too.
You've got like street punks hitting the streets and breaking things. It's a bit like that kind of like cyberpunks from RoboCop or like Terminator with Bill Paxton kind of vibe going on.
You're really dating yourself here.
Oh yeah, well I'm an old dog now. Just hit the 40 benchmark. So
wow.
So I guess you guys are a good bit younger than me, and it's good to see young lads in the in the independent journalism game. So tell us a bit. Like, I'll start with you, Kynan, and you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm 21 years old. I'm a college student, and I've worked as an activist for the Schiller Institute, of which Jose and I are a part of. And, essentially, I'll just say it basically. The point of our organization is to form, neat, beneficial relations between other nations and to get us off the path of war, which is what's going on right now in this drive to use Ukraine as a battering ram against Russia. So, I mean, I'll talk about the interventions now. I mean, we really began with this Jose did this much longer than we did, but this really kicked off in October of last year when him and I confronted AOC. And we told her, listen, you ran as a progressive, supposedly. You wanted to stop these bastards in the establishment. You wanted to get us off this war track. And yet you're doing the complete opposite of that. You're sending all these arms and money to Ukraine, and you're putting us on the track of nuclear war. Why don't you actually do what Tulsi Gabbard did recently? She left the Democratic Party because she can't stand the people in there. They're a bunch of war hawks. So we posted that, and that really kicked off. And that started another, bunch of interventions. We went against Mike Pompeo, Joe Biden, Jamal Bowman, another member of the quote unquote squad, right? And yeah, I mean, that's what we've been doing. Jose, you might want to add a little bit to that.
No, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, I started this process way back in 2021. Actually, not even that. 2019. I had confronted. How will they afford new platinum toilets? I confronted actually Rep. Adriano Espaillat in 2019. This was November of 2019, and I told him, why are we funding neo-Nazis in Ukraine? Right. So this is before the invasion, and this was with Victoria Nuland. I said, Victoria Nuland gave money and arms to Ukraine, and we overthrew the Ukrainian government. Do you stand for that? That was one of the first times I ever did an intervention. And then the COVID happened, and then I did it again with Kamala Harris in 2021. and that one blew up. That one went like it was covered in all the papers and stuff. And then finally the AOC intervention. Well, there were others too. There was the Senator
AOC intervention. Was that the recent one that was in a town hall when there was like students were in a town hall and she was asked about sending weapons to Ukraine, and I think there was a couple of other things, but that was very impressive because it kind of highlighted her hypocrisy.
Yeah, that was us.
What was the name of the town hall meeting? Because I might be able to pull that up for the viewers as well, so we can check that out.
Let me see if I can. It's on my Twitter, but I can see if I can get it for you right now.
So a lot of your videos, guys, they've gone like viral, to say the least. How have you found yourself? Have you been like elevated into, have you been picked up and interviewed by bigger channels such as Jimmy Dore, for example? Have you been on to give your interview and your takes there with any of the bigger journalists at all?
I will be on Jimmy Dore, and yeah, and I was asked to get on a big primetime guy whose name rhymes with Schmucker Schmalson.
Oh, really? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
but I don't. They went with Dennis Kucinich instead, and then now he's also in this like whole January 6th thing, which I guess supersedes little old me. But I don't know. I mean, in one sense, I'm happy that we get picked up and we got all the followers on Twitter now. But I want other people to start doing this. That's really like what I'm for it. And there was a period in between October and December. So this was like were you guys featured on Jimmy Dore? Yes, multiple times. Not we weren't on, but our interventions and the videos we've done have been, yeah. But in the period when we did the AOC town hall intervention back in October, I hope so, when we did the intervention with AOC, that was like a month away from the from the U.S. election. And I'm proud to say other people did stand up. Somebody else confronted Ilhan Omar, and then I posted it on my Twitter, and she came at me as if I was the one doing it to her. I didn't do it to her. Other people did Kamala Harris. Other people did the Obama intervention that we did on Obama. We did one on Biden. Who other people did stuff, right, Kynan? Who else did?
Yeah, no, just a ton of people that were just influenced by what we did on AOC. There was the one against Ilhan Omar, I think, and Cory Booker as well. He's what is he, like a senator from New Jersey, right? Or
yeah.
Cory's got those no-show jobs with the union.
And also Elizabeth Warren and Ayanna Pressley.
Oh, right.
Which I think it's what?
Pocahontas.
Yeah, exactly. So at this point, we've done other people. We've done the whole squad at this point now. I think the last intervention
we collected them all.
We've collected them all, and I'm happy about that. That other people are doing these, because that was really what. Yes, I believe Eddie Durkin will save the U.S. also. But
I got a good heart, guys. Got a good heart.
I'm really happy that other people have stood up and do this, and other people need to do it again. They need to stand up again, because if you could do this on an off election year, I think it sends a big message.
Yeah, I think what you guys are doing is fantastic, and it was on another video. It was on another thread on Twitter that I saw. You, Jose, had shared Kynan's video, and see, I don't really know a lot about Anne Applebaum, but I know that she's together with, is it Kagan?
Oh, Robert Kagan? No, it's actually.
Oh no, she's with a Polish guy.
Right, Radoslaw Sikorski, that's his name. He was a former foreign minister in Poland and a member of parliament over there. But I mean, the real reason why I wanted to go after her, because I think a lot of people saw this famous tweet that he made after the destruction of the Nord Stream pipelines. It said in quotes, "Thank you, USA."
Yeah.
So it's like, what's that about, right? I want to know why your husband posted that. And I guess just a little bit more on Applebaum. She's a board member for the National Endowment for Democracy, which has basically been the arm of the CIA since the 1980s. She writes for the Atlantic Council, Washington Post. I mean, all these pro-war but I had went to the event with my friend Daniel Burke. He's also a member of the Schiller
Yeah,
Institute.
he did. He went there as well. That's another legend. But continue on. I was going to ask you what kind of people were there, because there was a front view of the crowd, and I just saw one guy in a mask being like, I was like, God. But we will show the video, and maybe if you could send me that link to Burke's as well.
Could you do that, Jose?
I DM'd it to you on Twitter. Is that okay? It's because
you can also put it in the private chat here on the right. So anything you want me to show, I can share that.
It's just a little hard for me because I'm on my phone. This is like I'm.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Yeah, I can go into Twitter and check this out. Yeah, I've got a drop of the old ADHD, so I can go from one thing to another, and then I'm like, shit, what was I supposed to be asking again? So that's just my style. That's why they never had me on TV. So what I was going to say, I don't really know a lot about her, but she seems to be one of the glowing ones, if we use internet speak.
Right.
She's glowy.
And she's like white phosphorus.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe her. Well, I mean, you asked
she's phosphorescent.
Yeah, you asked about who was in the audience. I mean, it was at NYU, New York University, so it consisted mostly of students. And
Midtown.
Yeah, and I mean, when the Q&A started, it was the most softball, dumbest questions you can think of. Like,
what's your favorite color?
Yeah, some one guy who wasn't even paying attention. He just wants to gloat about how smart he is or whatever. He was asking, well, how the F-15s, the fighter planes, they're crucial for Ukraine's defense. How are we going to get them over there, right? And he was going on and on, and even the moderator, the Russian lady's like, okay, do you actually have a question? So these people are so unserious, and it's completely pathetic. But yeah, I mean, I eventually was called on, and I'm like, listen, you had the biggest story of this year so far, Cy Hirsch saying that the United States, along with Norway, was responsible for the destruction of the Nord Stream pipelines. And you've given this presentation about how Russia is this aggressor. Well, I mean, we planned this essentially before Russia's military operation. What do you have to say to that? Are you going to call for an international investigation? And what about your husband's comments? And yeah, she had pretty much no response. So.
Yeah, and also there was this guy in the front row, which you see when we cut to the audience, but he was in a beanie, and he asked a question before Kynan did, and he just kept going on and on about, I'm writing this research paper on how Russian literature was actually always pro-imperialist, and I think you would agree with me that, Russia should be eviscerated, culturally too, and he just kept going on and on and on and on and on about how smart he is, and all these ass kissers who are trying their best to make it in academia have no original thought or substance whatsoever. Just want to say whatever they think was going to get them praise from their overlords like Applebaum.
Hoping to get some sort of sweet kind of bureaucratic, clerical, nonsensical academic circle jerk position funded by the taxpayer.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it was like a sales pitch more than a relevant question. There does seem to be so basically you've probably engaged on Twitter with these like pro, I mean I would call them pro-war, because they claim to be on the side of I like me personally, I'm I'm anti-war. That's at all costs. I think every avenue of diplomacy and discussion and historical contents going way back, because you can't just cherry pick a date. But a lot of these people say, when I'm personally in these discussions, I'm like, peace first, negotiations later. And a lot of the standard response is, oh well, there will be peace once Russia vacate those lands, or this started on the 24th of February, but without the historical contents or context of Kolomoisky and Goldfarb and whatever the hell Biden and John Kerry and Pelosi's son, I think it was, and like Burisma, and there just seems to be a lot of the repression of people, those in the east of Luhansk and Donetsk that identify ethnically and their language is Russian. There's been, anytime we try and bring up the war and the coup and who's responsible for the coup and who benefits and who has been sponsoring this. But I will ask you who you believe is responsible for all this going back historically. But you try and bring up these discussions with people, and it's like they have their memes, and it trivializes and negates the seriousness of the fact that there are young men from both sides killing each other in trench warfare in some of the most senseless, barbaric waste of human potential and life. And I've seen videos from both sides. I've seen what's happening with the Ukrainian soldiers and the Russian soldiers on various Telegram groups, and it's an absolute failure of civilization. And you have these Western-backed elites like Boris Johnson, Applebaum. Oh God, who else is like Lindsey Graham? All these neocons, and I can't understand how. And the press, the legacy media, and it's any footage you get, any coverage is always from one side. So you can tell that they're throwing everything into the first psyop was, I don't know where you stand on the COVID, but obviously you're pretty, you seem to have your finger on the pulse here. That's turned out to be a complete sham. Everyone who was banned off social media for saying it was a lab leak and asking relevant questions that have now turned out to be complete bollocks. It's like this Ukraine conflict seems to have just like superseded and been interchanged for this. So some questions I'll pose to you: the origins of this, in your opinion, the role of the media, and who in the West stands to gain from this. So starting with yourself, Jose, first.
It was Churchill's fault. If you want to go back historically. No,
well, let's do that. I mean, because basically the historical context, the context is key to why we are. It's not just like history didn't just start one day. So yeah, go ahead as far back as you like. You have all the time you want for this, guys.
Well, historically speaking, Russia has always been our ally, really up until World War II. I mean, during the American Revolution, they supported us and they helped us out. During the Civil War of the United States, the Russian fleet sent their navy to the south to block British troops from supplying aid and arms to the Confederate soldiers. Alexander II banned serfdom 3 years before Abraham Lincoln bans slavery here in the United States, right? So there was always a constant kind of dialogue going back and forth between Russia and the United States. And then World War II happens, and how many millions of people? 26 million Russians died in Nazis, right? And then you have FDR who dies, right? And you have Churchill after World War II basically stoking the flames and saying, well, guess what? Now there's two superpowers left in the world. There's the Soviet Union and the United States. Oh, gee, I wonder who's going to win first. Then you have this idiot Truman come in and basically continues to stoke the flames of this Cold War that now starts. And all the presidents afterwards keep up, Eisenhower, Kennedy and stuff. They all keep up this we have to maintain American and democracy and capitalism, and we can't be subverted by communist intervention. And so that is really where the tensions between Russia and the United States starts. And then you have this theory called the Great Game, which basically says whoever can control the region, where Afghanistan is the person who can pretty much control all trade and all kinds of influence in that region of the world. And so that's really what this has always been about after World War II. It's been the United States and Great Britain trying to press their heels on the necks of other countries, saying, no, we tell you what to do. And so they tried to do this with Russia. Oh, go on.
The rules-based order, international rules-based order.
Exactly. And then, they realize that the Russians aren't taking it, and they try to use Ukraine as a way to do it. They're not doing it, right? And then we also see this with Taiwan, too. I mean, you can think whatever you want about China, but Taiwan is being used as the next Ukraine. That's just naturally what's going on, because all they want to do is they want to, they being, US, UK hegemony, they're trying to press their rules-based order on other countries, and they see the other superpowers that aren't taking it. Russia's not playing by these rules. China's not playing by these rules. Lots of countries in Africa aren't playing by these rules. The Indo-Pacific doesn't want to play by these rules. So the United States and Britain are getting desperate, and they just have to launch these proxy wars as a way to basically have the pretext to launch a global thermonuclear war. But they keep thinking they can get away with just nuking, or at least getting rid of Russia and any other countries that are a threat to them, without having to blow up the whole world. But that's the thing. The reason they think you can't get into a nuclear war is exactly how they'll get into a nuclear war, because it'll all happen by an accident or a mistake.
And they very, wasn't there a time, I don't know, was it under Kennedy? They very nearly did as well. There was like a mistake happened, and the Russians thought that there was a missile on the way, and it was down to the fact that they basically said, okay, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater here and just see. I don't know, it was under Khrushchev.
No, yes, it was. There was a submarine that had lost contact with the Soviets, and they thought, holy shit, we lost contact with our home base. That means they probably launched a nuclear bomb. But the commander of the submarine said, wait a minute, let's chill out for a second.
Oh, the submarine had lost contact with Moscow.
Exactly.
Oh, right. And it goes to show how quick. I mean, like I grew up in, I was born in the early 80s, and there was a TV show called Threads, which was
Right.
Oh, that was horrible. That's horrible. Oh God, yeah, I saw it. It like made my skin crawl.
Because it was a bit like, if you've seen 28 Days Later, that really affected me psychologically, because it wasn't the fact that there's these scary zombies running around. It was the fact that when they're sitting in the shop, they're saying, oh, look, you've got a headache because you're having a sugar crash, you haven't eaten anything. And he's like, what do you want? Do you want a Fanta or a Lilt? And that was what kind of made it. And same thing with Threads. It's that kind of familiarity of like incidental things like that, but thrown into a cataclysmic situation that brings it home. And a lot of people growing up did get really badly affected and scared by this film Threads, which was like a low budget BBC thing. But you think to yourself, is it stupidity? Is it like I mean, to put it into kind of pop cultural terms, have you seen the Iron Giant?
Yes.
There's the guy who he's just hell bent on destroying the robot, and if it means like nuking them all in the process, is it this kind of wishful thinking, or is it blind stupidity, or do they think that they're smarter, or is it they'll be in some sort of underground basement anyway, or like a bunker? And because I often wonder this, like they're throwing us all into like this, the edge of annihilation, and you kind of think, will they emerge afterwards and they'll be like, oh sweet, let's just rebuild?
Well, I think the way to view it is you have to view it in context of the financial system, which is, as we all know, it's blowing out. I mean, we see the inflation in Europe. I mean, we were just talking about how bad it is in New York City, so the system itself is imploding, and they can't pay for their debts that they've accumulated. So I think what they think a nuclear war will somehow wipe out all those debts. And, the very few people, the top billionaires will be able to outlive that while the majority of the population crashes. I think that's what's going on, and why they're willing to risk it. But, some lower level people, maybe Congress people, people in the military, there are some people who actually think we can win this war, which is what makes this situation so dangerous. And also, I'll point to another thing. Daniel Ellsberg, who leaked the Pentagon Papers, he said, the most realistic scenario of a nuclear war starting is by accident. And I mean, we've had so many times in history where, people thought, a nuke was launched, but it was totally by accident. But the reason that there wasn't a global thermonuclear catastrophe was because there was trust back then. There was trust between both the Soviet Union and the United States. But we no longer have that. Those back channels that existed back in the days of the Cuban Missile Crisis, they're gone. So
it's like when you saw in the EU Parliament the other day when Lavrov was talking. These people are paid to represent the European people, to try and find a solution, to try and find a compromise, to try and their job should be to put their constituency before profits, before special interests. And the fact that they all chose to walk out illustrates that it's this total lack of will to. I think another thing, maybe it's the fact that, if you look at leaders that came after World War II, a lot of the leaders that came to power had served in the military. They'd experienced the horrors of war firsthand, and the last thing they wanted to do was to get into another world war. And now it kind of feels like people have lost the memories of the previous two world wars, and they just think, oh, it'll be fine. And I think it's like that old adage, good people or good men make weak time, or like, what is it? Good times make weak men make bad times make strong men make good times. It's basically we're at the stage where it's like weak men making bad times, and I think we're kind of in that transitional phase. And if we don't have people like yourselves who are holding truth to power and getting as many people to wake up and smell the coffee, as they'd say over in the States, but we're up against a massive, well-oiled machine, a propaganda arm that squashes out any voices. You have to intentionally, with will, go out and find people who are discussing these things. And I think most people are distracted with paying debts, working multiple jobs, that they just think that they're being informed by watching the news as it comes on, and they're just being completely bombarded with propaganda.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think, though, that we are doomed to repeat this cycle of, weak men create bad times and then bad times create strong men. I think there is a way to break out of it, because the question should be, how do you create a culture that can perpetuate an educated population so that you have a mission that stretches thousands of years, right? So that, because, we're not going to live past, 80 to 100 years each ourselves, right? So how can you make sure that the next generation of people appreciate what you fought for, why you fought for what you did, and they can understand the benefits of a society, right? They can understand the benefits of why you did what you did, because the thing with new generations is that they're going to naturally question everything, and like a child, they're going to be rebellious, right? That's just what children do. They just want to throw things and say, well, maybe your way of doing things is wrong, right? And maybe the way you're doing things might be outdated, but if they can stick to the principle of, well, whatever you do, don't forget to advance society forward and make sure you adhere to these principles, right? Because principles aren't rules, right? There are different ways to do different things. Like, for example, maintaining freedom of speech and intervening, right? We've invented one way of using social media to make these interventions go viral. That's something they didn't have 50 years ago, right? But the principle is the same. Address and expose injustice when you see it, right? So how can you create a society and a culture that will forever and for eternity, understand these principles and understand why, appreciate history, basically, and appreciate why people did the things they did. Culture, I think. And it involves, we advocate for this, a classical education. You have to understand, this is something that Friedrich Schiller talks about, this idea of universal history. You have to understand what universal history is, right? Because you and I are in a dialogue constantly with the past and with the future, because what we want our present to look like gets defined in what we do for the future. That's the only way you can ever define your present. And so what do I want the world to look like 50 years after I'm dead? Is there a way for me to have some influence in that? And the answer is yes. I do believe that, right? I want somebody to have a better life than I did, so that that person can create a better life for the person that will be born 50 years after that person's dead. Right?
So to play it forward for the next generation.
Yeah, or generations.
But I think a lot of, let's say, since maybe the Cultural Revolution of the 60s, we've kind of been taught that it's all about individuality and individualism, and which has given way to hedonism. And I think we've, like I come from a previous generation to you guys, and it felt like the trends were, lads magazines, getting wasted and trying to get with as many women as possible. And then it kind of changed over the millennials. And, it was just like we were consuming films. And I kind of think, and before us, it was like, it was kind of hard rock and, rave and dance music. And before that, it was, each generation, it kind of seems like we've just descended further and further down this kind of like nihilistic, selfishness. It's kind of like the old adage of the old man who plants a tree so his grandkids can enjoy the shade. We don't really. I think we've all been conditioned to be materialistic and just look out for ourselves. And it's got, I think what you're saying about a universal history is an interesting concept, because if you look at history, if you have two different people, like this current conflict, that will be a history looked at from both sides that will have different views. And I think that's why truth and objective reporting and obviously to try and be as unbiased as possible and acknowledge the good and the bad that came from both sides. Like you were talking earlier on about about Churchill's role in how Ukraine has, and the Ukraine and Russia situation has come about today. Many people don't understand the Volyn massacre, how that the West had used the Banderites to as a force to fight Russia. And after World War II, there was actually a fight between the Soviets and the Banderites, where 300,000 people were killed in conflict. I only found that out recently, looking it up. So there's as you say about this universal history, we're not taught, unless you go and you actively search this history yourself. We're not taught, like we're taught in school chunks of history. So it's like these disembodied modules, but without being able to like tie history up together in a way where people understand exactly where we come from. I think people need to be interested in, and how do you think we can get people interested in knowing where you come from, knowing our origins?
I can actually talk to that, because Jose and we never came from, a political background. We came through an educational background, and I'll talk about my experience. In 2018, I had entered a summer program, which was involved in actually instructing people in music. We sang in a chorus, and in science. And I think the impact that had on me was that it's not your usual school format, where you're just given a textbook and you're basically supposed to remember that textbook and recite the answers on some kind of exam. It's not like that. In this program, we were actually taught, how do you discover something? How do you discover a universal physical principle? How do you know that gravitation, for example, that's actually real? How do you know that the Earth, is curved? And how do you calculate, the circumference of that? So we were given all these kinds of problems. We were never given the answers, but we were taught a method, and that, I think the impact that had on me was that, wow, I actually have a mind, that I can use. There's truth to the universe, not like what the counterculture teaches, just live for yourself, accumulate pleasure, go have sex, listen to rock music, that kind of stuff. So, that became ingrained in me. And that's where then I entered in this political process, because I viewed myself as a human being that had some sort of meaning in the world, that had to contribute something. So I think the way to actually get people more involved is through that. You need to begin from some sort of intellectual process, and then they'll begin, that the beauty comes in. And that especially works with young people, maybe not, middle-aged people, because, they already have a job, they're already thinking practically. But with younger people, they don't know much, they're still going to school, they're still trying to find themselves in the world. So
it's essentially it's experience-based discovery via learning. You're applying your own interpretation to this task.
It's a little more, yeah. I mean, like, for example, on the gravity question, we would read Einstein's theory of relativity, the paper he published that wasn't so equation heavy, so that the general population could understand what he was doing. And the reason we do that is because Einstein and also Kepler too, way back, when Kepler first discovered that the sun was in the center of our solar system and that we orbit it not in a circle but in an ellipse. What's so great about these people is that they don't just tell you, okay, here's the right answer. They say, well, first I did this and there was a mistake here and I spent like 2 months following this rabbit hole and then I was completely wrong. But see, there's something about the way they talk about and describe to you their thinking process, because they give you the mistakes they made. They tell you why they thought they were right when they were inevitably wrong, and you are like following in their footsteps of how they made a discovery, because in that you learn the method to make an original discovery yourself. So it's like you're making the discovery with them. So in the case of Einstein, when you read the paper on relativity, it's like, oh, I see why he got that wrong. And now I see what he means about, how gravity is actually relative depending on where you are, and how time and space is not fixed and it depends where you are in the world and stuff. And all of that was just theoretical too. So it wouldn't be actually proven until much, much, much later, only in the few recent years. So how can somebody know that? How can somebody do that? And I think all what it really boils down to is, you see all this transgenderism stuff. You see a lot of the me culture, a lot of the liberal culture that's like focused on making sure you're okay and you're feeling okay. A lot of it is the destruction and the disruption of what it means to be a human being. Because if you strip somebody away from their identity of what it means to be a human being, and you can be whatever you want, they say, if you want to be an apple, go ahead, right? That's what leads to depression. That's what leads to suicidal thoughts, drug overdose, right? Because there's no fulfillment in that. Because human beings inherently are not meant to just live for the now. There's a reason why we can think about things. There's a reason why we can question things, why we can identify how the laws of physics work, right? And it's not necessarily for us individually, but for the simultaneity of eternity. You're doing this for the benefit of mankind forever, really. And so what I guess basically we're saying is that you have to teach at the core principle what it means to be human.
Right.
And that's a beautiful thing. And then in that, you can build a society on that. That was the whole point of the Renaissance. That's why I also have this painting of Plato and Socrates here. Of Plato and Aristotle. Because, the world has been in this constant dialogue that, Aristotle believed we're just our senses. We are just our senses. Like we can only see, hear, feel, touch, smell. That's all we are. But Plato believed that we're more, that there's something more to us than that we are actually divine, that our minds are divine. And so, the oligarchy and the people in power like to use Aristotle as a way to justify, some people are just born leaders and some people are just born slaves, while Plato believed everybody is capable of thinking and having a soul, and everybody can be a king. Everybody. Nobody has to be a slave.
Yeah, I would be more in Plato's camp there. I think the power of it, when an individual sets their mind to something and they can visualize. I think it's something so simple. It's like breathing, for example. It's something that if you control your breath and you breathe, it's something that we take for granted, like a heartbeat, but it can affect the oxygen flow to your brain. And the same way, where to be still with oneself, and this is something that I've last few years haven't been able to do, because I'm always like overstimulated with something, or I'm having to do things with the kids, or I have to fix things, or I have to do things. But just to be able to have that moment, even if it's 10 minutes a day, where you think, you sit and you just have a think about where we're going as individuals. And I think what you were saying earlier on is, I think we're all lost. I think, like Kynan, for example, you were born after 9/11. Like I was 18 when I witnessed that happening live on TV. And that was a huge paradigm shift. That was kind of like, you had and that's why I think people around my age, from like late 30s to early 40s, we lived in a where everything was on like it was on the up. The wall had fallen in Berlin. Everyone was kind of on a good buzz. There was like a kind of a, that you had like great music that came out in the 90s. And then 9/11 came, and then there was a lot of. I remember like chatting to people my own age, my own peers, and a friend of mine, Jay Patrown, a musician from Australia, is like, "Oh mate, I don't know what to do. It seems like the world's cranking up." And we had this discussion in a bar in Dublin, and it didn't really we didn't know what to expect, and we were like, young men, like who just witnessed this, and the world changed. Every time you'd watch a film, you were like, "Oh, the towers are gone now." It's you witnessed this, and then there was the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, and I think a lot of people signed up to the war because of 9/11. And then, I'm not going to go into what happened, what followed, but it was a complete and utter disaster. I think that war is what ultimately drained the resources out of the states. And it's like the UK, the States is it's a maritime power, and that's how it's managed to be able to control so many territories. But the thing is, they've overstretched themselves militarily at the cost of the people living both in the countries that they've been at war with, but also the American people. So you can understand why there's a real kind of nihilism now in the States, because, look at the Ohio train that derailed and it was covered up. And that's just because things like infrastructure are non-existent. And it's like Kissinger helping to destroy manufacturing jobs in the States for profits for corporations in Asia, and it's like, how do you see this turning around? I mean, if you look at the shit show that is the current administration, you kind of think to yourself, how has it gone this far? And how do you as a nation, grab the controls before the plane crashes?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good thing that you brought up 9/11, because you're not the only one who has told me, you were born after this. So, and because there was a real paradigm shift. I mean, look, you go to airports, you go to like a baseball stadium, and everything is just completely militarized. You feel like you're a piece of cattle, that your government is treating you as. So it's understandable, I think, why people are nihilistic, why people are pessimistic. But just this whole intervention process that Jose and I are involved in, it's meant to inspire people, to reactivate them as citizens, because people no longer think of themselves as citizens. They think that they don't have any actual power. They think that these billionaires and oligarchs are just going to go ahead with their plans for the world. But once you're in that mindset, I think that's what allows that to happen. So
that's an exceptional point you just brought there, Kynan, because it's kind of like, okay, so I was in show business, which why I kind of pulled away from that is because the more I learned about the way the world works, the more I realized that, it's down, let's say, culture is downstream from politics. And you realize that many of these high-end Hollywood productions are designed to prop up the appetite for militarism, and they're inserting different narratives that are counterintuitive to the idea of community and the self. These ideas that people have in their heads that they have now become imbibed core values aren't actually what their natural default settings would be. And we've all been raised to consume TV, news, media without being critical of it. So the brain is in a state of alpha waves, and you're easily suggestible to take on these, because you're not questioning, why am I watching? It's like, oh, okay, the protagonist is going with this, but that's one side of it. But what you were saying about the interventionist side of things, let's say you could have someone who's a very talented local person in the community, and they're like, I would love to be on TV, but I don't know how to get there because it's far away. It's an abstract concept. And I think a lot of people feel the same way about challenging the status quo of the authority that is currently calling the shots, because they're like, these guys are over in Washington, these guys are in Westminster. How do we reach them? How do we how do we get FaceTime with them? How do we do this citizen journalism? But it's actually not as difficult as you'd think. Like you've basically gone and spoken to Applebaum there, and she does contribute. Another person recently is an Irish woman called Samantha Power, who was apparently involved in Libya and going in under these the people need liberation, and they have their contacts in the media. Look at Libya, look at what they did to Libya, and that's now after that intervention, that military intervention. Is that a better place? Is Iraq a better place? Syria a better place? Yemen, Afghanistan? They just blow these places to bits, profit off the and look at the guys who are going over there who enlist because they want to do it, because they believe that they're defending their nation. Yeah. And it's sad for the guys who are, what is it, 22 veterans a day are committing suicide. So the fact that they just they take these young kids out there, put them through a meat grinder, and then many of them are just so damaged by the time they come back that they end up in destitution and homelessness. But I think what I'll do is I'm going to show this video of you in action, because it's a fantastic bit of work. So let me just get this up now.
Okay.
And just for anyone here where to find you guys, just while I'm doing this, give the shout out there for your socials.
Sure. People can follow me on Twitter at Hosby I'll spell that out. It's JOSBTRIGGA.
Yeah, and people can follow me on Twitter. My handle is at Nagatone, NOGGATONE. And if people are wondering why the names are so stupid, we made this when we were kids, so don't fault us too much.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
1 second. Let me see.
You could use that one if you want to get to the first part with Kynan going to Applebaum. You can click on there and then just scroll up, and the first part will be there.
Yeah.
Okay. So start screening this. Yeah. 1 second now. I wish I had like I've got like boomer tech level skills. Unfortunately, I'd like to get better at this. Let me see.
You're fine.
Let me see now. Okay.
I think you just have to scroll up.
Yeah, just scroll up and then you'll get the part that you want.
Let me just see if that's
part 2, yeah.
Part 2.
That we're on the verge of nuclear war. You said it yourself.
Well, we can show this part first.
Sure.
What we're looking at is an escalation. If you're expressing the desire to take Crimea, that can lead to thermonuclear war. What is your peace plan? The Pope has a peace offering for negotiations. There was an effort to make negotiations, which Prime Minister Bennett of Israel said was canceled by the West, by the United States, by the UK.
Excuse me.
Where will we get peace? What is the intention? I work with Helga Zepp-LaRouche. I'm Daniel Burke with the Schiller Institute. And I'm here to say that this is ridiculous. I mean, you're pathetic. The global South is not going along with this imperial policy.
What was she going to do with the footage of him talking?
They're not going to go with the idea of sanctions to destroy the world. All right, look at Syria, honestly. 90% of the population is in extreme poverty. Do people here know that? And she says we're the democracy. She says the issue, I want a response too. She says the issue is democracy. She said the issue is democracy versus autocracy. She said that's the issue. How can we claim that the U.S. is a moral power? We have committed mass genocide. We destroyed Iraq. We destroyed Libya. We destroyed Syria. And we're sanctioning the world. And you're telling me we're the leaders of the moral free world? I think that you're pathetic. The situation is out of your control. You admit that there is a break in the establishment. Graham Allison is a leading member of the establishment, and you haven't answered a single one of his protests.
But listen, who is that
You have
idiot who
not
just keeps repeating
successfully
himself?
isolated
It's the guy in
Russia.
the
You have
beanie.
not
It's the guy in the
successfully
beanie.
destroyed their economy. They're
God.
doing great in their economy.
Instead
You
of
have
just
not
listening to
gotten
him and having
India,
a conversation.
Brazil, China to go along with you. NATO is doomed. It's pathetic. There's nothing good happening there.
Wrap it
My
up, wrap it
request
up.
is for you to drop this insane. Here's my final point. Drop this insanity of saying we're the Democrats and they're the autocracy. Okay? Drop it, because we're committing mass murder.
You're done. You're done. You're done.
I will conclude
You're
there.
done.
We had about an hour and 20
You're
minutes.
done. You're done.
Lean out of the way. I'll
You're
follow
done.
you. Go ahead. I'll follow you.
Go ahead, I'll follow you.
I'll go ahead. Fine. It's pathetic.
Ow,
NATO
ow.
is
They're
failing
so
to achieve
cranky,
nothing.
as they say in Sweden.
You're going to kill every last Ukrainian for your bullshit.
Oh, such a good point, man. Such a great point.
Yeah.
And like, they don't care. They don't care because who cares about a bunch of like poor Ukrainian dudes, man? Do you know what I mean? Like, they do not care. It's about money for the boys. So I'm gonna share this one now as well.
Okay.
With AOC, and then we'll go to your original one.
No
So we
problem.
can hold on a second while I just go to this. So this will be an exciting one. There was another town hall meeting where she was taken to task recently as well. It looked like kind of a town hall. It was more of a kind of a old style house lights on. But,
Was it really?
yeah, there was I think it was on. I think Jimmy Dore covered it as well.
Mm.
So we will share this one now as well.
Oh, that might have also been the other Daniel one too at the fundraiser.
Let me see.
You got this.
Yeah. I need a new computer as well. This thing is as old as the hills. Oh yeah, this is the one. Yeah, this is the one. There he is. Fair play to you.
Oh, you're not playing it. We see another window.
Yeah.
Oh, one sec.
I hear it though.
Okay. Someone phone me in the.
There we go.
You're playing with our lives.
Okay, I'll go back to the beginning of this.
Congresswoman, none of this matters unless there's a nuclear war, which you voted to send arms and weapons to Ukraine. Tulsi Gabbard, she's left the Democratic Party because they're a bunch of war hawks. Okay? You originally voted, you ran as an outsider. Yet you've been voting to start this war in Ukraine. You're voting to start a thermonuclear war with Russia and China. Why are you playing with the lives of American citizens? You're playing with our lives.
There will be no neighbors if there's a nuclear bomb. You voted to mobilize and send money to Ukrainian Nazis. You're a coward. You're a progressive socialist. Where are you against the war mobilization? He's telling the right truth. You have done nothing. Tulsi Gabbard has shown guts where you've shown cowardice. I believed in you, and you became the very thing you sought to fight against. That's what you've become. You are the establishment, and you are the reason why everybody will end up in a nuclear war unless you choose to stand up right now and denounce the Democratic Party. Will you do that? Yes or no? Okay, simple. Are you going to stop nuclear war? Yes or no? There is no line because this is bullshit. None of this matters.
This
if
is
we're all
bullshit.
dead. None of it. You know that. Then let's take it up right now because this is the only thing that matters.
Man, much respect to you guys.
This is the only thing that matters right now. We could be in a nuclear war at any minute and you continue to fund it. That's what's going on. Why not right now? You're the liars here. Nobody has held
That
you
never fails to
accountable.
crack me up. You're being
That's
rude.
what's happening. And it is time for
See
you
that
to stand.
again?
Why not right now? You're the liar here. Nobody has held you accountable. That's what's happening. And it is time for you to stand up and realize that what you've been saying has been lies. Let your conscience come through for once.
Who's the good Samaritan?
Yeah.
It's very, very impressive. Let me just find this other video of you, Kynan, as well. But you know, well done, guys, because you know that video has been shared all over. You know, it's
oh yeah.
One second, and I'll show. Oh, here we go. So I'll start.
Yeah, we can hear it.
Yeah.
Can't see it. There we go. And this is an act of terrorism against Germany and against Russia. We're violating the sovereignty of one nation, and yet here we are talking about, you know, the Russians are the bad guys. And what about the sanctions that we put on Syria? You know, there was this horrific earthquake that hit Syria, that hit Turkey, and because of the sanctions, the Caesar sanctions, which we put there, the required aid is not going to them because of our government sanctions and because we're occupying the northwest of that nation right now. So how is it that you can lie to all of us and say we're the beacon, we're standing for
The guy with the
democracy
mask.
against this aggressor Russia?
Is that your
when
man, Scott
we're just
Adams
as
from
bad?
Dilbert?
We're terrorizing people all across the world, and we've destroyed a major piece of infrastructure. No. I want her to answer the question. Can you call for an international investigation into this Nord Stream
Just
sabotage?
telling him, man.
Can you acknowledge the fact that we've been terrorizing nations across the world, and we do not stand for democracy anymore? I want her to answer that. No. I want an answer from Miss Applebaum. And also, I would like you to wait, one more thing. Can you talk about why your husband, Mr. Sikorsky, why he put on Twitter, thank you, USA, after we bombed the Nord Stream pipelines? Why did your husband say that?
It was a joke.
It was a joke? Why did he delete it right after then? Okay. We misunderstood the joke, people.
You want the truth? So I'm not going to answer that at length. I mean, the Seymour Hersh article has been debunked repeatedly by many people.
Who?
It's full of holes.
How is it full of holes? What are the holes?
So I'm not going to go into the details right now. I'm happy to point you to the.
Please don't cut her off.
It's not I haven't followed it in great detail. We can wait for the Swedish and other Baltic.
Yeah, the Swedes haven't come
Then why
forward
aren't they
with it.
sharing the information with the international community? They're suppressing that information.
You're not going to.
No, I want her to answer it. We're on the brink of a nuclear war right now because mad people like her are pushing us on the brink of it. We're sending over $100 billion to Ukraine. Why can't I be concerned about the threat of nuclear war? Well, so you're not going to answer the question? We're on the brink of nuclear war right now. You are going to kill a bunch of people. You are lying to all these people. I have a right to be heard.
Thanks.
Well done.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Yeah, look, Papa Hayes, look, mate, I'm I would consider myself apolitical and decentralized. I know that this might be, a bit boring from the point of view it's not comedy, but I think it's for other people who find it fascinating because what these guys are doing is what the people in mainstream journalism should be doing because it affects all of us and so I know it's different from the comedy and just some of the other things I cover, but all these things affect us and for me, like I have a stake in the future, same as anybody else, and I don't you know, I don't want to see the world go to shit, man, just for the sake of a couple of people who know it's wrong and don't want to say anything. For those people who are benefiting from them. I mean, can you imagine you're a journalist, right? And you've got your mortgage, you've got a sweet pay, you've got a good standard of living, but you don't want to rock the boat because you don't want to miss out on the trappings of the material things. And ultimately, you've got to ask yourself, that those 30 pieces of silver versus doing the right thing. I don't give a fuck how much money someone would throw at me. I'm going to stick by my convictions. You got the likes of Russell Brand is coming out now, and he seems to be, doing some great stuff. Who was the guy he was on Bill Maher with?
Yeah, Bill Maher.
Yeah, and that other guy, he was like, wasn't
an MSNBC host.
Yeah, MSNBC, man. I mean, like, what the fuck's going on with that channel? Do you know what I mean? It's like people who sit there and watch The View.
Yeah.
You'd probably get more information out of watching two dogs sniff each other's asses.
I've got another 5 minutes, by the way, just letting you know.
Yeah, no worries. I have to wrap it up soon. But is there anything else you'd like to say or cover before you go, guys?
No, Kynan?
Well, I mean, people can get in touch with us. I think it's important that people do this all across the world, I mean, in Europe right now, I know you had, what was it, something like 50,000 people that were out in Berlin protesting the war against Ukraine and calling for Germany to get out of NATO because, they've lost their reason for existing at this point, and it's just going to get people killed. And you have similar protests going on in France. Oh, yeah. Actually, yesterday, I think 1.2 million people were out in France because of this whole pension reform thing. They're trying to take away people's pensions to fund this war. So
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But, people are starting to stand up, So these kinds of interventions, it's important that people, just stand up because, like we said, we don't want to be the face of it. We want other people to start doing it. So, yeah, that's what I'll say. And I appreciate you having me on your show.
Guys, you know what? And you're always welcome back anytime. I really mean that. And keep up the good work. And I think you guys are rising stars in the independent journalism game. And do you have YouTube channels yourselves?
Yeah, we have Declaring Independence. It's our joint YouTube channel. That's what it's called. Okay. Declaring Independence.
Well, I'll subscribe to you there. And so give them a subscribe, guys, if you want to see them do more.
Yeah.
Declaring Independence.
Yeah, and the profile picture, it's the painting that Jose has behind the wall of Plato and Aristotle. So that's
I have you now. Well, hopefully you get a boost in the power zone. YouTube's a very difficult one to get subscribers. I don't know why, but thanks very much for coming on, guys. And hopefully I might come. I want to start doing a few shows over in the States, comedy shows. Keep it light, but also sprinkle it with some truth. Leave the door open, as they'd say, at ajar. But you're doing great work, fellas. And let me know when you're going on Jimmy Dore. I think the two of you guys that'd be a great chat. I want to go on Jimmy Dore as well. Be good to
I'll throw a good word in if I do.
Yeah, please do. I've been sending them emails, but there's been no response. But I come over to the States for that one.
Okay.
But well, look, guys, thanks very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. And keep up the good work. And you're always welcome back. I'll shoot you a message if I need some good young lads who know what's that.
Okay, no problem. Anytime, man. Thank you.
When you're down in the States, we'll share a beer sometime. I just turned 21 2 days ago, actually.
Good man.
So I'm quite excited about it.
I'll teach you how to do some fierce drinking.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Much love to you. Take care. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Right. So that was the boys. Thanks very much. Yeah, I was very impressed with them the other when I saw the video, and it has been doing the rounds. So they're good lads. So give them Declaring Independence. It's here in the chat. Please do, if you're interested in this kind of thing, do give them a subscribe there, because they're good lads. And Sean says happy birthday to the Kynan ladine. Missy says here, if Martin comes to the States, Sean grab one leg and 8 grab the other. So he has to stay. Haha. I'd be in bother if I stayed too long. But yeah, you know, it's like I said in the beginning of the video, like I don't know why, like I and Purple Haze was saying earlier on, I was interested in politics when I was in my college days, and then I was just like, I had more success when I didn't discuss it. You know, they always say don't bring in religion or politics to things, and in many ways I did. It's kind of like, I feel like the older I get, the more it's like I feel like I have a duty of care to try and, you know, at least make the world a better place. Now, with that said, I do like to have a good laugh and enjoy other things. So hopefully we, you know, in the future I will be doing things that cover, you know, films, music, aviation. Don't know where that came from, or you know, cool cars and engineering. I would like to do some videos of me just razzing around in cars, and, you know, so we'll try and get some of that going. But yeah, thank you all for sticking around. Good to see you all, and yeah, thank you to the guests. They're solid dudes. There's been a snowstorm here in Sweden, so I think there's been about like 2 foot of snow that's fallen since last night. So get your sled out, lads. Get your sled out. And as Tom Kagalin would say, don't spread your clout until May is out, because the weather can come back. Thanks very much, Martin Ellen, for the props there. It's been a good stream. Like, I was a bit, you know, of course the cat was trying to get in, and I've still got the dog in the laundry room there. Need to let him out. I could hear him peeping away in the background. But I can't remember. If you've got any more questions before I go, I can take a few, and then I'll have to skedaddle. Doing a bit of, I've got to go out in the fucking snowstorm, man. Oh, Shawnee, thank you very much for the Coming to America fund. Coming to America. Woo! Superhighways. I started writing a song yesterday, actually, last night. So I was thinking, with Stevie Kelly, the cowboy, I was thinking about putting an album together called Eddie Durkin's Greatest Hits. And the concept is this. So I make music that sounds like some of my favorite songs. And like, let's say, a song that sounds like an Oasis song, songs like a Pink Floyd song that sounds like Guns N' Roses, but make them funny. So started writing this yesterday. Let me see, what did I do with it? Where is it? Okay, so these are the hands that built America. These are the hands that built America. I drove a Peterbilt through the Appalachian Mountains, cut the finest steel from Pittsburgh. I laid concrete down in New Orlando. Met myself a sweet girl up in Chicago City. Looked her in the eyes and said, "Yee-haw, you're very pretty." I paid the cab and laid the cable. When I awoke, there was breakfast on the table. These are the hands that built America. These are the hands that built America, baby. Rockin' and rollin', logging timber in Montana. I raised the skyline up in New York City. Built myself a bridge down in Florida, Key West. And then I kind of ran out because I had to go to sleep. But I will be finishing that later on. And hopefully we'll get that into shining like that one, man. Shining like that. I was laying cable. Woke up and there was breakfast down the table. That was good. But it's a bit kind of, you know, as if the idea of he's working all over America, doing stuff like, I was building the storm drain in fucking California. Smoked myself a bowl of hydro. Don't know. Just spitballing here, man. Just spitballing. So if any of you guys are on TikTok, that's a fucking weird platform, man. I mean, like, if you don't follow anyone and it's just they're suggesting videos, I'm just like, how what the fuck is people? What's going on here? Like, I saw this video of a woman. She must have been about 75. She had good hair now for a 75-year-old. but she looked like a tea bag that had just been squeezed after being put into a cup. And she had one of these like youthful face filters. So she was like, if I could tell this girl what I know now. She was doing all this with her hair. But the face filter made no difference whatsoever. So I was like, fucking strange. Durkin is the lineman of the county. That could be Trump's campaign song. These are the hands that build America. Beautiful hands, beautiful. I'm going to be building these freedom cities on the frontiers. We're going to build them. They're going to be beautiful. We're going back to beautiful Western style architecture. My music is on TikTok, but I didn't go there because it's scary. I've been watching a lot of Joey B. Tools lately. I don't know if you've heard of him. But his whole thing is like, oh, God, is this what we're doing now? But he had Rick Cossack, one of the creators of Jackass, on. And there's some really good information in there. So I recommend you listen to that. Joey B. Tunes with Rick Cossack. Because there's some really good advice for anyone who's starting off. You know, it's just basically keep grinding it out, and like don't, like, if you fail, keep going, keep making things. You know, it's look at Cowboy, for example. That man started off with the 3 books left a couple of years ago, and yeah, he was doing it on phones, and in the beginning some of the stuff wasn't great, and he kept at it, and now he's flying it. So you know, that goes for all of us, and it doesn't matter what stage of our life we're at. You know, as your man Rick Cossack says, there's no finish line. It's just all about the journey, and to enjoy that journey until the end. You know, and it's oh, you're Mikey Higgins by any fucking Craig, man, any Craig. I've got to let the 1 second. Let me let this poor bastard out. Come on, horse. Come on. Come here to me. Come up here. Hey, go. Here he is, the fucking prince himself. Such a fucking prince. He's been enjoying the snow. Fair play to him. Yeah, but that's the crack now. I've been an hour and 10 minutes. It's not too long of a stream. I've got to go now and brave the elements out there. It's apparently going to be fucking minus 10 Celsius tonight. So I'll have to wear 2 jimmies. I'll have to wear 2 fucking jimmies, hey. So I was thinking about doing a couple of another video for TikTok. So I'm thinking about writing scripts now, because it's easier just to write a funny script. So this was just one, which is actually true, and I found this out today. The Rocket Man. Talk about Rocket Man and Space Oddity. I always thought Rocket Man was a euphemism for Elton John secretly craving Wavin before he came out. Not at all. Which is the same as David Bowie's Space Oddity, which coincidentally enough was produced by the same engineer. That said, rumor had it that Bowie too was known to cradle the satchel, and rockets have been known to be fallacial terms of dimensions of girth, so it'd make you think. Good songs though, man. So that was that. Rocket Man is a pure phallic symbol. What was the other one? Yeah, this was one here. It was fucking. Soft dollar to be made. How you doing, man? I heard there's up and coming cyber boys making soft dollar out of TikTok videos. Tell me, how do you do this? I'm too old to work the thumb combos. It's like playing Street Fighter 2 Turbo as a kid. Some game, that, man. Most of you are only a glint on your old lad's bag. Fucking schnez, man. I was just tapping buttons like a madman, throwing clocks like the wind. E Honda, Chun-Li, and the spooky yoga lad, Dalsim. He was so dexterous, his limbs stretched. Then you had Mortal Kombat in the Sega Mega Drive, or as my old friend Enda Kennedy would call it, Mega Drive. There's the other one. The world's gone to Pol Pot altogether. Met a purple-haired buck in town the last night, dressed in designer gear, gold watch, buying rounds for everyone like Lord Fauntleroy. We got talking. I asked him where he got the mink coat from. I thought he was a flamboyant civil engineer. He's made a small fortune for himself. Told me he's got an OnlyFans channel called Grown Ass Man. Actually, do you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be going on too much. It kind of negates some seriousness of the previous chat. I should fucking finish off anyway. His concept is sticking fruit and veg up his back actor. Some lad gave him a PlayStation 5 for putting a bunch of grapes up his hoop. I wouldn't mind. They weren't even seedless, man. So yeah. Hey, we all need a laugh. Think of the comedy as being a bit of dessert after the serious chat. Some big time guests you're getting, Eddie. Joe Rogan, better look out. Yo, Jamie, pull up that. There's a gorilla there that can. Who'd win in a fight out of the Big Show and the gorilla? Oh man, the gorilla, dude. Even a chimp would probably just like tear off the Big Show's face. Jamie, pull up a picture of that really jackball chimp. Yeah, look at that dude, man. How about that big red kangaroo? Yeah, look at that thing, man. He's fucking jacked. The gains on that thing. The innocent eggplant, thanks to the emoji makers. So is the innocent eggplant thanks to emoji makers? Oh yeah, I guess it's this. I've often used the eggplant as a phallical emblem. 91 Vanced, how are you doing, Papa Shango? As part of International Women's Day, I bought a tampon and stuck on my shit pipe. Holy smoke, man! I didn't see that one coming. You're a cheeky one, Mahan. Isaac Whelan, good to see you. Is it International Women's Day, is it? Fucking hell. Some mad shit happened recently. Speaking of news, Liverpool bet United 7-0, which was unexpected. Also, Matt Hancock, the sneaky little bastard, some of his messages have come out. Matt Hancock, man, he's lower than a snake's ball sack. That lad, the time he went on TV and he was like pretending to cry because he was laughing. That's called duper's delight. That's something to watch out for when someone is trying to pull the wool over your eyes and they start laughing. Sometimes that's happened to me, not because I'm lying, because I'm telling the truth, but because I'm aware of it. Then I feel like I'm duping someone. It's like when you've got to break the news of like someone's dead and it's sad news, but then I burst out laughing because it's so serious. It's kind of like if you're in a really serious situation, like a funeral, and you just might burst out laughing, that kind of vibe. For International Women's Day, to CM Fox, I scuffed the alloys on the curb in tribute. Fucking hell, man. Those alloys, they don't come cheap. BBS or Momo, you decide. Leon Nolan, official. Martin, you were saying something like books might be coming soon. Do tell more. Hey, well, I don't want to put it out too much, but I have been putting strong work into getting the wheels in motion. Now, there's a couple of little things that need to be boxed off, but I have to say, I've looked back over a previous episode that never made it into series 4, which I actually think is a fucking sin because it's probably one of the funniest things I've ever written. So I was going over that the other day, and I've been writing some new ideas. I've also got the guts of 6 episodes there as well that are sitting. Fair play to my main man Alex Rossini over there in the States. Yeah, I just need to fucking get that sorted. I don't know, but they're another draft and they'll be ready to go. It's just getting the time and the resources to be able to go off and film them. But some good stuff in the pipeline. I also need to get the new episode of the Hardy book out. There's about 3 of them ready to go there, and I go hard, I go deep and wide, I break on through to the other side, to quote Jimbo McMorrison there. Fair play, Missy says, I am a woman and I know how to park without scuffing the tires. Actually, I have to say, when I was in LA in 2011, I rented a really nice Volkswagen 2-liter turbo automatic Volkswagen CC. It was a CC coupe, actually. It was a 3-door. Lovely bit of machinery, man. Lovely. But where I was staying in the house, they had a very kind of narrow driveway where I parked the car in there. But yeah, really made shit of those alloys, unfortunately. What was Universal's role in the film? Universal, they put money into the budget of the film, but they mostly did distribution and obviously the publicity surrounding the film. Hey, Chris Perez, you won't be a big fan of the serious chat I was talking earlier on, man. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Let me see. You have to watch the TikTok I tagged you in. My audition as a future bouquet. Let me have a look at this. Where did you send it on to? Was this recently, was it? Did it go into the fucking DMs, did it? You see, I've been playing a lot of piano lately, trying to learn Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton of Johnshire. Let me see, 4 message requests. Jake Murray, well, Durkin, the Viper said you were too much for pussy to follow me back. Is he right? Oh, he's not wrong. I'll say to him, for that egregious cheek, you'll get a follow. ... Cunt. No, tagged you and Stephen on TikTok. Where does a man even where would a man see the tagged? It's in the timeline, is it? Don't fucking understand this, man. Still don't understand it. Took me ages to get the hang of Instagram as well, and they still messed it up. Can you do me a favor, Leo, and send me that via the inbox, please? Good lad yourself. The Viper should join the Wagner under 18 club. Strongbow. Only one man can get us out of this, and his name is Kid Rock, baby. Kid Rock. Who was that weird little dude that hung around with him? He looked like a child, but he was about 40, I think. Or was he? I don't know. I didn't get that. Chris Perez knows the crack. Chris Perez's mate, Metzger. Was it Metzger who was down at the Kid Rock show? Can't wait till the next film comes out. Yeah, I'm gonna get this. It is time. I've fucked about long enough now, and it's time to do what I do best, and that's making good, compelling content that makes people laugh and makes the world more of a fun place to be in. Lil Joe, rest in peace. Spill a drop for LJ. Right, well, I've got to wrap it up here now, lords and ladies, and I will be I will be doing a stream on Friday night, the usual time. This was just like a bonus stream, but it's been nice to do a midweek stream with you guys. But I like I said, I've got to go out and do some stuff, do some fucking stuff, man. But if you, I just want to say thank you to CM Fox and Amanda for your very kind contributions there on PayPal. And if any of you guys like what I do and you want to throw no amount too big or too small at the old paypal.me/Maloney's Digest, the touch, and doing that, you know, I just want to get better gear, man, and you know, better fucking. I was going to make a joke about chunk, but I thought best not. But yeah, if you want to throw a little tip there on that, that'll be grand. You know what the leper said to the prostitute? Keep the tip. But that's the crack now. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing you all at the same time on Friday night. And if you have any guests that you would like to bring on for Friday, hit me up in the comments section of this later on. I always read your comments, and I do my best to respond. But good to see you all. Thank you for your input and your chat, and I will talk to you soon. Good luck.